Now on KREM 2 News, protests in the streets of Spokane. Some are calling to defund the police, while counter-protesters are supporting law enforcement. We have team coverage.
I'm tracking more warm and sunny weather this week, and we may even make it back up to 90 degrees.
Whitman County continues to see an increase in COVID-19 cases. Most of them are being traced back to off-campus gatherings. Tonight, WSU is urging students to be cautious. Protesters took to the streets of Spokane earlier today, one group calling to defund the police. Mass protests across the nation have been calling on police reform following the in-custody death of George Floyd. Meanwhile, counter-protesters took to the streets of downtown Spokane to back the blue to show their support for law enforcement. Good evening and thanks so much for staying up late with us tonight. I'm Tim Pham. We are covering every angle of these protests this weekend. Brandon Jones kicks off our team coverage.
Over the past few months, we've seen protests across the country and right here in Spokane. Today, that was no different as we saw a small protest form outside of the courthouse calling for the defunding of the police. After George Floyd was killed by Minneapolis police, a conversation began to emerge about resources dedicated to law enforcement.
They have exorbitant funding that they're spending on weaponry, riot gear, military-grade equipment that should not be used.
Organizers of today's rally told me that police brutality is something that happens here in Spokane far too often. Their goal isn't to necessarily abolish a police presence, but things like homelessness, education, and forming bonds with the community are something they prioritize over arrest and traffic stops. It's something they're willing to fight for no matter how long it takes.
But the city council, our mayor, the police department themselves, they need to stand up and do what they need to take care of things in their own home, meaning their own organization. They've got big time problems and they just can't go around with their head in the sand anymore and act like everything's okay. Everything is not okay.
Debbie is the mother of David Novak. He was a 35-year-old man shot and killed by the Spokane Police Department on January 7th of 2019. The prosecutor for that case decided lethal force was justified by SPD, but Novak's family says he was unarmed on his own property, so there was no reason for his life to be taken. Every 7th day of the month, his family stands in front of the courthouse to push for change and to get David's name cleared.
If it was your brother or sister, you would be devastated. They would be devastated. And we have family that are in the police department that we do back. But when they are not letting us back them, that's their own fault.
Across the street from the Defund Police rally was a counter-protest in support of law enforcement. KREM's Morgan Trow was able to speak with them about their stance.
Thanks, Brandon. I know the street looks pretty empty right now, but at around 3:30 this afternoon, there were 150 Back the Blue supporters on this side chanting about how Blue Lives Matter. I got the chance to speak with them to hear how they thought today was going to go. We represent the 90%. Spokane has been divided over the issue of defunding the police, but the Back the Blue supporters say they are fighting for their perspectives to be heard. They organized a counter-protest to the Defund the Police rally.
Our voices need to get out in the community so that everyone knows that there is another side. There's a silent majority that is starting to speak up.
Danny and Sherry Green organized the event, and Sheriff Ozzie Knezevich is appreciative of how many people came to support law enforcement. He says that local politicians aren't listening to the citizens of Spokane, but he's willing to work for a better relationship.
I feel disrespected by that city council. They may think that we need some reform. We can always do better.
The Greens agree with that sentiment, as they want to keep the peace as well.
If we can resolve anything, I'm open to that. But I do stand firm with supporting our law enforcement. Nobody's going to, get me to say defund them. I don't believe that with all my heart. We need to raise it up, not defund.
Danny Green made sure to calm his supporters down when each side started throwing insults at each other. But the Back the Blue group decided that they will be attending every Defund the Police rally. Reporting outside the courthouse, Morgan Trow, KREM 2 News. Back to you in studio.
Meanwhile, Saturday saw some of the worst person-on-person violence since the protests in Portland began. Alt-right and Proud Boy groups mixed it up with left-wing protesters. Most police activity came after alt-right groups had left and the violence ended. The Portland Bureau blamed a lack of resources for not responding. 14 arrests were made after officers declared a riot in southeast Portland. Now to the latest developments on the largest wildfire burning in Washington state. More people living near the Palmer fire in Okanogan County have been warned to be ready to evacuate. There's a level 2 evacuation notice for the town of Loomis. The wildfire has now grown to more than 17,000 acres. At last check, the fire is now only 19% contained. Meanwhile, Spokane fire crews responded to a fire that burned an acre of land near the Indian Canyon Golf Course. You're looking at aerial footage from the fire earlier today. According to the Spokane Fire Chief, Eckno Lodge Hotel and condos near Westcliff Place were evacuated. Those evacuations have since been lifted. The fire is under control and no one was hurt. The cause is still under investigation. To weather now, meteorologist Michelle Boss is joining us live from home. Michelle, fires burning all across the west is causing some hazy conditions in areas, but not so much here in the inland northwest. What can we expect air quality wise over the next few days?
Yeah, our air quality has been good in the Spokane area. It was good yesterday, it was good today, and should stay in the good category tomorrow. I have not seen any reports of any hazy skies anywhere across the inland northwest at the 11 o'clock hour. So I think we're in the clear, at least for now, though we could see some hazy skies, especially across far southeastern Washington and the Idaho Panhandle over the next couple days. Of course, do expect some smoky skies in close vicinity of any local wildfires. But as we do check the air quality in Spokane, it is good. And temperature-wise, we're doing pretty good as well. We did warm up a little bit today back into the 80s, but currently in the mid-60s right now in Spokane, low 60s in Coeur d'Alene. It's cooled down into the 50s up north in Deer Park and Sandpoint. We will see above average temperatures for this upcoming week. Satellite and radar shows dry weather across the region and hardly a cloud in the sky. We'll see plenty of sunshine to start your Monday as temperatures bottom out in the middle 50s early tomorrow morning. We will see an increase in clouds late in the day to make it partly cloudy by Monday late afternoon, evening, warming up to 88 degrees. It looks partly cloudy on Tuesday with a high of 87 and continued warm and sunny on Wednesday with a high of 87.
New tonight, the latest increase in COVID-19 cases in Whitman County has been primarily traced by authorities to off-campus gatherings in privately owned housing in the Greek Row area on College Hill. Now, that's according to a statement by Washington State University. This comes after Whitman County reports 39 new coronavirus positive test results today, all of whom were under the age of 39. Just yesterday, the county reported all 30 new positive test results were also in their 20s and 30s. The county has a total of 211 cases and no deaths. Health officials say all patients are stable and isolating. This week, Washington State University urged students not to return to campus due to the increase in cases. And still to come, we have your other top stories here at 11 tonight, including the latest updates on a coronavirus vaccine and why experts are worried flu and COVID symptoms can be confusing this fall.